11 months ago, I sat in my local IMAX, Seat E18, to review James Gunn's Superman. It's the first review on this channel. Gave it a score, because I thought that's what you're supposed to do. These were the old Channel 69 days. But sitting that close to the screen, you only react to the flashing lights, you miss the frame, so I moved back a row. I'm that bloke in Seat F18. No scores, no agendas, just a bloke trying to figure out if modern blockbusters still have anything to say. Which is why if you clicked on this video, because the thumbnail promised you a 15-minute red-faced rant about agendas, girl bosses and the death of cinema, I'm sorry to disappoint you, the internet has already written those reviews. They finished their scripts 3 months ago. If the movie misses the mark, they're going to feast on the corpse, but if it succeeds, they claim James Gunn got it right. I'm tired of the grift, I'm tired of the noise. Now this brings us to Supergirl. On paper, it's chapter 2 of the new DC universe, and there's heavy shoes to fill, but it feels like a really quiet release arriving in a sea of big Hollywood noise. But it's also trying very hard to be edgy in the marketing. Blondie soundtracks, slamming shots. Hey look kids, Jason Momoa is back. Director Craig Gillespie is leaning hard into a punk rock space western revenge story, which sounds interesting on paper. Milly Alcock's Kara isn't a sunny farm girl like her cousin. She watched her planet die. She's cynical, brittle, and nursing a nasty case of PTSD. When I was younger, I fell in love with cinema because of the magic, the storytelling of Back to the Future, the wonder of watching Star Wars on the old VHS tape. I don't need a movie to shout at me to get my attention. But as you get older, your tolerance for fake, manufactured rebellion drops even lower. You start holding things to higher standards. How are you going to use my valuable time? Is this movie going to actually explore trauma and isolation? Or did a massive corporation just dress a $170 million blockbuster in a leather jacket to trick us into thinking it has a soul? And regardless of the punk aesthetic, this is still a massive film for IMAX event. The last time I was there, it was for Non-Disclosure Day. The time before that was the Mandalorian. Perfectly adequate Mortal Kombat sequel before that. It's been March since the last time that screen took me somewhere truly special, and that was a re-release of The Revenant. You're really looking back to the speedrunner Project Hail Mary for the last truly wonderful release in that format. Going to the cinema is supposed to be an escape from the noise of your world, but lately the noise of the internet is waiting in your pocket before the lights even dim. The question for them isn't, was Supergirl good? It's, does it fit my agenda? Early reviewers always seem to be swinging for the fences, trying to manufacture the ultimate tagline for the marketing campaign, but the truth is much more ordinary. This movie is just okay. On the positive side, it's a simple, straightforward and coherent plot. There's no exhausting multitasking or multiple spinning of plates. David Corenswet is a good Superman, and playing the protective older cousin version of the character in his limited screen time, it's a nice angle, and I'm looking forward to round 2 with him, to be honest. Milly Alcock, she's decent enough. I actually thought Supergirl was the weakest part of Superman during her cameo, but as we dig into the backstory here, her abrasive behaviour finally feels earned and warranted. But that's it, we get to the bad. When you go to space and you operate in a fantasy realm, you have infinite possibilities, which is exactly why the choices made here feel so incredibly plain and meh. The wider alien world feels basic, just background noises or characters with 1 or 2 lines. There's a completely pointless Seth Rogen voice cameo, so you can tick that off your cinema bingo card, even if it wasn't on there. Take a shot anyway, go on, you deserve it if you've sat through this film. There's the music. The music. James Gunn fundamentally needs to stop with needle drops. I know he's not director here, but it's his calling card. In Guardians of the Galaxy, the drops made sense against the backdrop of Star-Lord's Walkman. It was built into the narrative, even if it did start to get a little bit old by Volume 3. And then it was forced in Supergirl. At least James Gunn picked some punchy tunes in that one. But the needle drops in Supergirl feel like an AI picked them. There are 2 songs towards the end of the film, one in particular that is so incredibly jarring. You know how modern movie trailers use those somber, slowed down cover versions of classic tracks to elicit an unearned emotion? They do this over probably the main visual set piece they put together for the film, and it completely falls flat. If I'm wrong though, and a human being actually made that musical choice, they need to be checked for circuit boards. There was a lot of talk about reshoots on this film, and I feel like it shows. The final third in particular, the action is a little bit rough. There's plenty of good ideas and storyboarded sequences that look great on paper, but they dissolve into these messy, rushed shots, sloppy CGI, and some glaring green screen moments. It shifts from coherent action to sloppy, fast-edited, weightless non-events. It's also a film that's victim of its own plot and circumstance. They have to do a lot of heavy narrative lifting just to get the pieces lined up, and it insults your intelligence. If you live in a universe where there's 3 different types of sun, and one makes you a god, one makes you neutral, and the other one fucks you up, would you not do basic elementary prep and check that before you visit a planet? Even if someone pops a bag over your head and says get out, would you not say, hang on a minute, where are we? Yeah, I can't get off here. In the middle of all this is Jason Momoa as Lobo. He's fun sometimes, but sometimes he's like creeping into bad dad joke territory. It just feels like we've had enough of him, but the movie insists on cramming him in again and again, possibly because of the reshoots. As for the villain, his motivation is a retread of Immortan Joe from Mad Max and his harem of breeders, but his actual on-screen presence falls straight into Thor 2 or The Marvels or Suicide Squad. When those early reviews came out and called this Mad Max Light, I thought, okay, maybe some kinetic action, but instead we just get narrative theft without the craft. Outraged tourists and culture warriors are going to tell you this movie is a casualty of a culture war. They'll scream about agendas and girl bosses, but that's a lie. The failures here aren't political, they're purely creative. Take Supergirl's 15-year-old companion Ruthie. Initially I wanted to defend her, to maybe distance myself from predictable anti-female pylon that plagues this genre, but the reality is her performance is stilted, and leaning into this 15-year-old girl on a gritty revenge quest, it's a trope that feels like such an incredibly jaded, tired path to take for what's supposed to be a fresh start for the DCU. Back to that point about space, infinite possibilities. Because this movie is mediocre, those channels that built the outrage will absolutely get their moment. They will scream that girl bosses and wokeness failed. They'll demand we bring back the darkness. They'll cry for a Snyderverse resurrection. But Zack Snyder's busy, guys. He's about to go and rape and pillage Snake Plissken. But the narrative cycle just continues. It is not just Hollywood that is looking exhausted and jaded right now. It's the entire critique culture surrounding it. But in the UK, we mock the politician Nigel Farage for a number of reasons. He's keeping up that British stereotype of sexy teeth for one, but the main reason is the man will say absolutely anything for a pound note. You can literally buy his dignity on a cameo video. Before this movie came out, James Gunn claimed Supergirl became priority number 2 for DC after Superman because it was one of the best scripts he'd ever read. Yeah, James Gunn also told us The Flash was one of the best superhero movies he's ever seen. Evidently, James Gunn will say anything for $1. There is still something below the surface of this new DC universe that keeps my curiosity alive, and they need to seriously step up. People are going to stop turning up to watch it. Gosh, we're halfway through the summer blockbuster season of 2026 and Hollywood is visibly shaking. The quality of the big movies is subpar. Last year's Superman, F1, Fantastic Four, even Mission Impossible 8 for all its shortcomings, they were better than this. We deserve better. And what's coming up? Moana, Minions. Spider-Man Brand New Day is probably going to make over $1 billion, but it's number 9. It's going to be about as fresh as some of Peter's crusty web discharge cleanup songs. It seems all our cinematic hopes are now pinned on the Odyssey. Christopher Nolan's coming. Look, I don't do scores anymore. I look at the merits, point out the bullshit and ask for them to do better. Cinema is a personal journey, and tonight, from row F, it felt like an okay film buried under sloppy execution. And I'm not saying this for rage clicks, but look, to quote a great British movie philosopher at Christmas, for now, let me say, without hope or agenda. Just because it's summer blockbuster season, and at summer blockbuster season you tell the truth. This movie was meh.
Would you like to know more?
Movies, popcorn.